81% of people are very likely to skip over a property that doesn't have a price attached to it.
I feel like the agents that are well ahead in this space will start to get a whole lot more listings.
Buyers that are coming through are interested in just making sure that they can make better decisions and not waste their time.
Are you one of the 78% of people who say that a lack of pricing on property listings is your key frustration when it comes to searching for a home? You're not alone. It's the number one pain point nationally for property buyers. Joining me today to unpack why property sometimes doesn't have a price tag and what we're doing about it is Melina Cruickshank, Chief Product and Audience Officer at REA Group, and Thomas McGlynn, CEO of BresicWhitney. Thanks both so much for coming on the show today. Melina, you're really passionate about this, and at REA Group, we call it pricing transparency. Can you explain for our listeners, firstly, what it means, but secondly, why is it so important?
This is the number one request that comes through from our consumers, and this is essentially around giving a price guide. Buying property is really stressful, and so to have an understanding of where you stand when it comes to your affordability and your ability to purchase a property is really empowering.
Can you give us a little bit of a state of play around the nation? Because some states like Victoria, pricing has become mandatory, but in Queensland it is a very different story.
Victoria is the most progressed in terms of laws. There does need to be a lot more transparency from around the rest of the country when it comes to this. And we're hoping that at realestate.com.au we can push some of that. In Queensland, you can't actually put prices on a listing. There's laws there. And in New South Wales, it's very much up to the discretion of the agent. 73%
of buyers say that finding a suitable property is too difficult because too many are listed without a price. Now, that same feeling in Victoria, only 41% of buyers have that feeling. So there's a discrepancy there already of 32%. Thomas, BresicWhitney, New South Wales-based agency, you're in a state that doesn't mandate price. However, you guys have been price friendly for over a decade. Price guides are standard on all of your listings. Why do you do this?
First and foremost, we do it for the customer. The other thing to consider too is that I think in our industry, agents in particular are really focused on volume of people walking through homes, volume of inquiry. And sometimes when you don't have a price, you actually are encouraging the wrong people to inquire on your property. So once an owner understands that, an owner wants genuine people walking through their home. They don't really want people that are not anywhere near the vicinity that they should be to purchase their home walking through. So that really helps us.
That's what our research is telling us time and time again. Transparency and accuracy is really important when it comes to that early stage of a buyer looking for a property. And I mean, I do think as well, I agree with Thomas, the world of volume, getting people through properties is going to be more and more challenged. And at realestate.com.au, we want to pass on the leads or those buyers who are actually far more progressed and are much more serious around purchasing. So we're looking at passing on details about where they stand in terms of, being able to actually put in an offer and how far they are, as opposed to the individual just walking through wanting to know if they can have a look around, but they actually can't afford that property.
Thomas, from an agent's perspective, why are some of them so hesitant to list price? Is it because, some suburbs and regions are actually too hot to gauge a price? Or, is it simply just to get that volume of potential buyers?
I do think there's a couple of different reasons there why people don't want to use price guides. Firstly, it's something that they've always done, and they feel that not putting a price on a property and engaging the entire market rather than a specific section of the market is a better strategy. I disagree with that, but that's what they think. And then the other side of it is that a seller is always emotional about their home. And so educating an owner on price can be very confronting if you're doing that in the first week or two of engaging with them as your new customer. And a lot of people try and delay that conversation for as long as possible. So it's delaying the inevitable. And again, that's one of the big benefits that it brings to you as a business, where your ability to be able to bring a buyer and seller together in a more efficient manner actually does have massive positive impact in your business.
In Feb 2024, we introduced match searched price with display price for the New South Wales market. And the result of that was 11% of New South Wales listings that are no longer relevant to people's search criteria just don't appear. Now, that to me makes it, from a buyer's point of view, a lot easier. Has there been any negative sentiment from sellers, or have they even noticed?
Some instances, the seller has a different view on the value of their property compared to what the market is looking at. Valuations are tricky because how you value something compared to what a buyer values something compared to what a seller values. What realestate.com.au is trying to do at this point is just bring some early transparency to the process so that we can actually make the process a whole lot easier for the agent and the seller. Our job is to help sell those properties faster for our customers.
I love what you said there about bringing the data together, because the numbers don't lie, and our data shows that 81% of people are very likely to skip over a property that doesn't have a price attached to it. Thomas, in your experience though, is there a story from your career that sticks out to you about having, that upfront conversation about home prices?
We have so many different examples of where we've been transparent on price, and buyers, especially in a market that can become challenging like we are in now, buyers will put the properties that are actively publishing price guides at the top of their list. Working with agents across Australia, one of the biggest things that people generally don't associate high performance with is transparency. And I actually do believe that an agent can become a lot more high performing if they do engage transparency on price. First-hand experience of that is that I know that an agent, if they can spend more time dealing with a genuine buyer, they are more likely to build a better relationship with that buyer, which means they're more likely to deliver a better outcome for their seller, which means that prices are going to be better.
65% of buyers say that a lack of pricing transparency negatively impacts their perception of the agent. And we all know that, buyers do eventually become sellers. So I imagine that can actually really impact an agent's career.
You cannot have a short-term view. If you're looking to be a credible real estate agent over a long period of time, and you then want owners to trust your opinion, you cannot think about the next 6 months. You need to think about the next 5 to 10 years. Our founder, Shannon Whitney, who's been selling real estate in Sydney for 30 years and has really pioneered this philosophy on working with buyers and price transparency. He's back selling in the field day to day now, and I actually see people who come back who he might not have had direct communication with for over a decade, who come back to him now and say, we remember buying through you in 2004 and we loved that experience. We loved how transparent you were with us and we're returning to you.
Yeah, because people remember how they made you feel.
Exactly. It's a transference of feeling, and transparency creates a really positive transference of feeling.
So, Melina, for say a listing that doesn't have a price, we'll say in Queensland, for example, what is your advice to buyers? How can they do their own research to potentially find that price guide that's not being given to them?
This is one of the key issues we're grappling with at the moment, because buyers are finding a way to find price guides, and there's a lot of different sources, some accurate and some not. And what we're saying to agents is get on the front foot and be a lot more proactive around this space. We are working on some solutions, but I think as well it would be great to see the government being spoken to on this. There's a range of institutes that agents, subscribe to. So it would be great to have some lobbying to the government to bring some regulatory change in that space in Queensland.
If the price isn't listed, any research hacks, any maybe insider questions that they could ask for that to the agent, just to get a bit of an idea?
The number one thing that I think that they need to be able to ask an agent is, what are the comparable sales that you and the owner have spoken about when you listed the property? And the way to be able to obtain market knowledge is attending open for inspections and auctions in the area that you are looking to buy in. And even if you're not ready to buy, getting out there and exploring and being able to see what's going on. I think that's important.
Melina, in your ideal world, what does the future of pricing transparency look like across this country?
The ideal world would be one where we have a national law around this that asked agents to put price guides. We're not asking for an actual price, it's a price guide that you provide to consumers around that property. And that can evolve and that can change, but I think helping consumers know where they stand, consumer expectations are very, very high and they want information, they want it fast and they want it online. I think the laws are one thing, but I also think the industry can absolutely step forward here. I understand all of the other components around different philosophies and respect it, but I think, there will be a two-speed approach to this in the next 10 years. And I feel like the agents that are well ahead in this space will start to get a whole lot more listings coming through.
Thomas, the next generation of buyers, they're digitally native. So they have higher expectations of personalisation, not just from apps like realestate.com.au, but from all of their digital experiences. I do feel like they expect more transparency and more information at their fingertips, 24/7. What do you think is the next big demand for this generation coming through?
Well, I actually think this is probably one of the spaces that our industry could be disrupted. I think the disruption could come from not being transparent around price, and with AI playing a really big role in things into the future. If we don't move with this and be part of the solution, someone else is going to come up with the solution and we're going to be left behind. The current crop of buyers that are coming through are interested in just making sure that they can make better decisions and not waste their time.
Very interesting. Now, look, I could keep talking to you both. I've thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. You're both such a wealth of knowledge and information, but we are at time today. So thank you so much for coming on the show and giving us your insights.
Thanks, Alice.
Thanks for joining me. This has been Real Talk. For your weekly fix, please follow wherever you listen to your podcasts and tune in next time for more real questions, news and insights on the topics that matter most from realestate.com.au, Australia's #1 address in property. All information provided is general advice and opinion based on current market conditions. These opinions should not be treated as investment advice. Always obtain advice based on your individual circumstances.
Real Talk acknowledges the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea, air and community. We pay our respects to elders past and present.